Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bible study. Hope you're having a great day today. And today we'll be in part 4 of a study we're calling Who is Satan? And we're going to be talking about his limitation and power. When I was putting this thing together, I was reminded of a good movie that I saw a long time ago. I've got it on DVD and I watched it recently again, but it's a really good movie. It has a great backstory of a young marriage in trouble, and this guy meets God, is interviewing him, and it's really a theologically sound movie. So listen closely to what is said in this movie. But I was reminded of the question of Satan and his power when the young columnist asked God. He says, "Is Satan real?" And God says, "Yes, but he's overrated." And the young columnist says, "How so?" And God says, "Well, he's only limited to the power in which you give him." And I thought that was a very profound statement, that he's only limited by the power in which we give him. So let's look at some text that I want to go through today. We're going to be in Job. First of all, we'll be in Job 1, 6 through 12. And I'll read it here. I'm in the NIV version. You can follow along with me if you want, or follow along with me in your Bible. It says, "One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, 'Where have you come from?' Satan answered the Lord, from roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." "Does Job fear God for nothing?" Satan replied. "Have you not put a hedge around him in his household and everything he has? Have you blessed the work of his hands so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land? But now stretch your hand out and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." The Lord said to Satan, "Very well, then, everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger." Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. I think this verse really pulls back the heavenly curtain, and it reveals a conversation where God praises Job's righteousness. Satan argues that Job only serves God for material blessings. God permits Satan to test Job by stripping away his wealth and restricts him physically from harming Job himself. And the key takeaways here, I think, are God is fully sovereign over evil. Satan requires divine permission to act. He is a limited creature operating on a leash, unable to touch Job without God's explicit authorization. It's the nature of true faith is revealed here. The passage exposes the question of why we serve God. Satan operates on a cynical assumption that humans only worship God for rewards. True faith remains steadfast even when all physical blessings are removed. And there's a spiritual realm behind earthly realities. And I think we can bet on that. This event in Job's life, is being debated in heaven. And this teaches that our earthly struggles, suffering, and faithlessness or faithfulness often have spiritual dimensions unknown to us at the time. And but I want you to keep heart here. Stay in the faith, because God boasts about his people. It is God who initiates the conversation and proudly directs Satan's attention to Job's integrity. God trusts his faithful servants, and he trusts them to withstand this trial and many more. Let's go on to another verse. We're going to be in Luke 22, verses 31 and 32. And this is Jesus speaking with Peter. And he says here, "Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat. But I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers." So what is Jesus saying here? He's warning Peter about an impending spiritual battle, while assuring him of divine protection and future restoration. Jesus tells Peter that Satan has demanded to sift all the disciples like wheat, but it reveals that he has prayed for Peter's faith so that it will not completely fail. So, what does sifting like wheat mean? Back in biblical times, and probably up until, just maybe years ago, sifting involved shaking grain vigorously to separate the valuable kernels from the worthless chaff. And Jesus is warning Peter that Satan intends to violently shake his faith, hoping to break him and destroy his devotion. And it talks a little bit about Jesus and his intercession between man and Satan and his intercession to God. Jesus promises that he has personally prayed for Peter. This reveals that the doctrine of Christ as our advocate. Even when believers face intense spiritual testing or fall into sin, Jesus intercedes to ensure our ultimate spiritual survival. And a little bit about restoration and ministry. Jesus commands Peter to strengthen your brothers. Once he has repented and returned, Jesus uses Peter's upcoming very public failure, if you guys remember his denial of Christ, as a humbling learning experience. Once restored, Peter's own failures allow him to lead, comfort, and build up the early Christian church with deep grace and empathy. And so I think there's a big spiritual battle going on with Peter right here, but ultimately with Jesus's intercession, in between Satan and God, he Peter is victorious and goes on to lead the early church. So let's take a look at our key truth today. Satan is not an equal opposite to God. He is a created being who must get permission to act, and his power is ultimately limited and controlled by God's sovereign purposes. I think that's a very important part to remember there, that he is limited in his power. And so keep that in mind and keep in prayer that you are not given into the devil's temptations. Everyone have a great day, and we'll talk in part 5 tomorrow.